Most agents scroll right past land listings. There's no kitchen to photograph, no staging, and no easy comp. It looks like a dead end, but some agents have figured out that the deals that nobody wanted were the ones that changed their business. Today's conversation is with someone who found an entire side of real estate that most agents don't even consider. Hi, Israel. Thank you for
Hey,
joining us today.
thank you for having me on.
Of course, we are glad to have you here. I would love to start by just learning a little bit more about you and what got you into real estate.
Oh, wow. It's a pretty big opening question. Gosh, that feels so loaded. I would say I've always wanted to be in real estate since I was actually like 19. I'm from New York City. I've been living in Virginia for like the past 5 years now, but most of my whole life I've basically been a native New Yorker. And I always thought you needed money to be in real estate.
Yeah.
So real estate was just something I kind of put on the back burner. And it wasn't until I started working for a company called homes.com. I started working with real estate agents and they were my clients. So I worked with a lot of like agents and brokers like
Mhm.
all over the country.
Yep.
And that really kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities of real estate. Because yeah, they were my clients, but I was learning about what was going on in their business.
Yeah.
And a lot of my clients, some of them wanted to hire me actually
Oh, I love
to
it.
like join their team. And really, they kind of like a lot of people were putting like this seed in my head, like, Israel, you really need to get into real estate. So after like 14 months at Homes, I decided I basically had like a fork in the road. I had to decide like, am I going to continue, I guess, selling stuff to
Mhm.
realtors and maybe doing like something else, or am I going to get into real estate myself? And I made the jump and decided like, yeah, I'm going to get into real estate myself and, see how I do.
I love it. I love it. I wanted to bring you in to have this conversation because I do feel like a lot of agents tend to shy away from land deals because it's out of their comfort zone. I think a lot of times when people think real estate, they think the easier sell is going to be like the residential homes already
Right.
built.
And you make more money doing that, right? Those
Yes,
listings
yeah.
have
So
bigger dollar
I'd
amount.
love to know a little bit more about why you have chosen to make land like I know you still do everything, but like why that's really your specialty and where you have found your passion for.
I mean, to be quite frank with you, obviously, like at Keaton and Co., like we have a lot of people with like a faith background.
Mm.
So, like, really how I got into land was when I was 19 years old. I was at a prayer meeting, and somebody at the prayer meeting said, like, Israel, God is going to give you land.
Oh, wow.
That's what I was actually told. And I always believed that.
Yeah.
Since then, that had never left. That
Oh, I just
always
got
had stuck.
chills.
That always like stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how. I didn't know why. I'm like, New York, where's land?
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by
Yes.
concrete.
Yeah.
I'm
You're like,
surrounded
what?
by concrete. I'm like, okay, when am I gonna get this land? Where is this land gonna be at? So I always like had that desire like in
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how to get into it. So once I started getting to real estate full time, like I just decided like I'm gonna learn everything I can about land.
Yeah.
So I'm not just like an agent that like lists land, but I'm also like a land investor as well.
Yes.
So pretty much like that's how I got into it. I just decided like I'm just gonna learn everything like I can about land as like an asset class, as like part of real estate. And yeah, that's pretty much how I guess I really have gotten started in real estate, was like doing that. I've done like more residential stuff as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say that kind of fueled me to really
Yes.
like, that's where my starting point
Yeah.
was pretty much from that word I got when I was 19.
That's crazy too, because we were just talking about your goats and your chickens and your homestead. So I feel like that is the most full circle
Right.
story I've ever
Right.
heard, which is amazing. Can you tell me about your first land deal and maybe what intimidated you about it and what made you be like, okay, yeah, this is going to be a good route for me?
Oh, that's a really good question. So
Yeah.
my first land deal was actually a deal in Powhatan.
Okay.
It was 5 acres
Mm.
in a really nice subdivision.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know really what the land could be worth.
Mhm.
So I called a broker who specializes. Maybe he'll watch it. His name's Mike Williford. He's
Mhm.
pretty good in Powhatan. And I guessed it. I offered the seller basically like 180 for it.
Yeah.
And Mike told me he thought we could list it maybe for like 250.
Yeah.
So we went, listed it. I didn't really know how things were going to go.
Yeah.
But, I was just, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And I would say like before I was doing real estate, I was an entrepreneur. So like I had a business before this. I ran for 3 years. So I kind of know how to like take risk and not kind of talk myself like out of things.
Yes.
So I just figured I was just going to like move forward because it seemed like the numbers just made sense. We didn't end up selling that piece of land for 250, but we did end up selling it to a builder. We ended up selling it to Main Street Homes.
Okay, yeah.
And I learned a lot from that deal
Yes.
because it didn't perk for like a conventional septic system. It
Yeah.
needed like an alternative system. But we ended up selling it for
Okay.
$215,000. And that was my first deal. And
Yeah.
that was this past December. So that was like maybe like 8 months ago. So
Yeah.
that was like my first deal that got me like started in the land business. And that was like my proof of concept for me. Like, wow, like you really can make money buying land. And like even the broker, like Mike, he did really good on that deal as
Yeah.
well. You know, basically having both sides of the deal on that. So
Yeah.
like even on the agent side, like he ended up doing really good. And it took us like about maybe like 60 days to find a buyer for
Yeah.
that one. So, you know, it was a great, you know, opportunity and learning experience
Yeah.
for me, you know, jumping into that one.
And it sounds like that was like a land investment deal that you
Right.
did. Yes.
Yeah.
How are you finding buyers for your land investment?
So like traditional investors, you know, they reach out off market.
Yeah.
You know, that might be, you know, cold calling, that might be texting, maybe that might be like sending mail.
Yeah.
So those are like the channels that like, you know, you typically kind of step into when
Yeah.
you're reaching out to owners to see if you can generate opportunities.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. Perfect. And then what was the first thing that you ran into with land that made you realize it is different from residential real estate? It's a totally different ballgame. And could you see why people shy away from it sometimes?
I would say I think the thing that makes land so different, right,
Mhm.
is that if you weren't good in earth science class as like a kid and you found it like really boring, like
Yeah.
you're gonna find
Yeah.
land boring
Yeah.
because, you know, like when you're selling a house, you're not really thinking of like wetlands. Is this like in
Yes.
a flood zone? Because the thing is, like when you're thinking about a house, there are so many checkpoints.
Yeah.
Like you have the lender, you have
Yeah.
the bank. Like they're trying to make sure you don't overpay for your house. You
Yes.
got the realtor who listed it, who comped it, who
Yes.
probably priced it right so it can
Yes.
attract buyers. So there's a lot more checks and balances that go
Mhm.
into like the home buying process. Or like land's not really like that. Land's more it's kind of like this asset class that's a little unknown. It's a
Yes.
little bit more speculative. I mean, one piece of land could sell very different from another piece of land, and they could be the same size.
Yeah.
So I would say like land, like when you're talking about a house, buying a house, I feel like is a lot. I don't think it's a lot easier. I think it's a longer process for
Yes.
sure. But I think it's easier to go through the motions when you're trying
Yeah.
to like buy a house or sell a house. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like an easier motion. There are these kind of stop gaps that kind of protect everybody in the process. You know,
Mhm.
you have attorneys, all of that. When it comes to land, like you have to know what you're doing,
Yeah.
or you can end up buying like a lemon if you don't know what you're
Yes.
doing.
Yeah.
So what makes land different is like you're paying attention to like how's the terrain of the land?
Yeah.
You know, is the land wet? Soils are like a super, super important thing,
Yeah.
especially in the country. If there's no sewer available, it needs a well. You know, knowing about that, like what type of septic system you can put on that property, that can be intimidating for agents because
Yeah.
they're like, I don't even know what a septic system really is. I don't
Yeah.
know what a soil scientist is, you know. So I think with land, access is like a huge thing too.
Yeah.
Like just because you can put your car, you know, to get inside the property, if you don't have like deeded access to that property, you can't build a house on it. You can't get a building permit. A bank's not
Yeah.
going to lend you money to buy that land. So these are things like you can easily overlook it and just
Mhm.
assume.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, you just ended up spending a lot of money. So I would
Yeah.
say that those are like the things with land that you don't you need to know basically what your I would say like the check boxes are
Yeah.
to protect you and to protect your client
Yes.
before you buy that piece of land. Otherwise, if you just go into it just kind of like blindly and you just make a recommendation to buy it, you can really hurt somebody's like investment.
How did you go about learning that? Like, was that something that you typed into Google or like ChatGPT? Like, what resources did you use to make yourself an expert on it? Because clearly like you're very knowledgeable. I can hear it just in your talking. You're very knowledgeable on it, but dumbing it down for someone like me who has never done a land deal, never thought about a land deal, where would you suggest somebody like that start in the research process?
I mean, there are so many like resources that are out there. I bought coaching.
Yeah,
Like I learned from some of the best professional land investors in the country.
that's awesome.
I use some of the best software that there is to look at land. And there's lots of great software out there.
Yeah.
So really like, oh my goodness, like there's a channel on YouTube. I would recommend if you just don't want to spend money, but you just want to learn, there's a channel on YouTube. It's called Ackwell Land Company. They're really good, super knowledgeable, and they educate like the everyday person on their couch who's like, I want to buy like a piece of land for myself and my family.
Yes.
So I feel like that's really good. And yeah, I mean, I educated myself a lot, I think, through buying programs. And the reason why, like, I'm a big advocate for buying knowledge.
Yes.
Because you can go on YouTube. And if you're doing this professionally as an agent,
Yeah.
I would say like you should be purchasing some sort of program, or you should be going to the person who's doing the most land deals in your brokerage and asking them like,
Yeah.
hey, if you like that person could probably tell you in like 5 minutes or less if that property you should even show that
Yes.
property.
Yeah.
So going to that person, learning from that person, find a mentor, find somebody that can explain it, dumb it down, or just show you just like the basics. Like you should know like these basic things. Like here's like
Yes.
the basic check mark. Just like if you learn, for example, like the home buying process, like how does that process look like to help a buyer? Like
Yeah.
when you sit with a buyer and you tell them this is what the process is going to be like, land has a process as well. So I would say tapping into those people who have already done that over and over again for
Yeah.
like their buyers, that's exactly what you should do. You should be like, hey, I'm a buyer. If I want it, like how I look at every land transaction now is if I was going to buy this piece of land, what would I do?
Yeah.
And I'm literally just telling the buyer the same exact thing.
Yeah. Awesome. And then I assume you're using that logic with the sellers that you're working with too, like when you are marketing yourself to these sellers.
Exactly. So when you're working with a seller as well, that I would say is there could be a little bit of nuance with that.
Yeah.
Because every piece of land's like different, right?
Yeah.
Are you talking like 100 acres or are you just talking like 2 acres?
Yeah.
What can you do with that land? What are you allowed to do? You know, some people have never called like your planning and zoning department in your county to find out what you're permitted to put on that land, what you're not permitted. So definitely with your seller, like you want to know like what are the strengths of this land?
Yeah.
Because what you need to think about when you're talking with a seller and you're going to list somebody's land is, okay, who is going to buy this seller's land? Like what does that ideal buyer look like? And does that make logical sense?
Yeah.
Like if you are in, you know, an area, let's say where there's a lot of like mobile homes, for instance, and that piece of land, you're not allowed to put a mobile home. You're only allowed to put a single family home because there's like some sort of restriction on it. That's going to limit your pool of buyers. That's going to limit, and you got to think about it. Well, is somebody going to want to spend the money to build a new house where there's mobile homes?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So you've got to think about that. You have to know, what are you allowed? You can't assume like this is what we're just allowed to do just because everybody else around here is doing that. You have to actually talk with that county to see like, what are we allowed to do? And they're super helpful over the phone. Like those administrators, like they live and breathe it. So that's a good thing. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to call that person at the county who is the expert. They'll know the zoning for the land, what you can do, what you can't do. And that'll kind of, and I'd say like lands like this, it's like, think of like a puzzle. You get a couple of pieces, and as these pieces come together, the picture becomes more and more clearer, and you're going to understand, okay, this is what I can do.
Yeah.
And you want to match that with what is the highest and best use of what we could do with this.
Yes.
And if you look at every piece of land, what is the highest and best use? And can we do that? Are we allowed to do that? That's how you have to think about land and every piece of property, because every property is different. The rules might be different. The counties, you know, we work in multiple counties as agents. So like you can't assume Goochland and Chesterfield have the same rules. Or Louisa and Prince George or King William or Hanover. Everybody's got their own set of rules. So don't assume just because you did thing in one area that, oh, we can just do the same thing here. So that's what I would say.
And you briefly touched on marketing and cold calling landowners. Are you doing all of this research on their land before you're making that initial phone call with them?
Definitely not.
No, that's okay. Yeah,
so
I just was curious. Yeah.
So that's a definite no, just because you will spend hours.
I was
Because you don't
gonna
even
say
know if
that
they're
would, like,
interested.
bog
You're not
you
even know
down.
they're
Yeah.
interested. It'd be like looking at a homeowner's house and doing all this research on it, which it could work. Don't get me wrong,
Yes.
that
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
It could work. But I'd say for land, I like to just reach out to see who's interested.
Yep.
And then I can take a
A
deeper
deeper
look
look.
at it and really kind of help them like evaluate their options.
Yes.
I would say that's a better approach,
Yeah.
that you're only responding to people who are kind of raising their hand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you might be just talking with a lot of people who are like, they're not ready yet, or it's just not the right time.
Yeah. And then spending a lot of that back end time. I was going to say, I feel like that could be very time consuming.
Yeah.
So that does make a lot more sense. Can you tell me a little bit more about land investing? And do you are there certain areas in Virginia that you specialize in? Do you go outside of those areas? Like, what does that look like for you and your business personally?
So personally, like I buy land all over Virginia.
Okay.
I buy land in other states too.
Okay.
Like North Carolina, Arkansas,
Oh, wow.
Wisconsin, Alabama. So like for us, we buy land, everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's kind of similar, I would say, to like somebody who's an investor who might be making an offer on somebody's house. So like not everybody is going to want to buy land from me because my offer is not going to be the highest and best.
Yes.
Like my offer is going to be that convenient offer, that guaranteed offer. Because truthfully in land, I mean, not everybody wants to go to an agent. Not everybody wants to pay that agent commission, especially if your land's like $35,000. There's not a lot of agents who might even be motivated to list that piece of land.
Yeah.
So for us, like our offers might not be like the highest and best. Like if you were to go on the market and look for that buyer for maybe over 6 to 12 months. So for us, we just work with those folks that it's going to make sense for them to accept our offer.
Absolutely.
Or maybe they're just kind of like, you know what, I want to move on from it.
Yep.
And, we sell them on our process and we explain basically what that process looks like and if it makes sense for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it makes sense to work with us. If it's too far away for me to list, it might make sense for me to refer it find that land broker or that land agent who might be, in like Northern Virginia or something like that, or close to like Shenandoah Valley.
Okay.
And I'll be like, look, I know somebody who would do an excellent job helping you get that price you want to get. So there's a lot of different options that we try to provide landowners as well.
Yeah. So networking is important for you. Very
Yes.
important. Awesome. When you see agents approaching land deals for the first time, what are some of the initial mistakes you see them make that if they're coming to you, you're like, no, you got to do this instead?
That's a really good question. That's a good question. I would say most agents that I talk with that are asking questions, they just don't know where to start.
Yes.
In evaluating land. I would say the first thing is like access. I think that's the biggest mistake people make. They don't know about access. Like your property, unless it's touching like a state, county road, like you want to make sure your property has not just physical access. Physical access means that you can get like a car to the property.
Yeah.
So it's kind of easy to tell that, like, how am I going to drive and get there? Like if it's, let's say, just like the side of a mountain, like you just know, like, okay, like there is no access.
Yeah.
But legal access is super, super important because let's say your property is behind somebody else's.
Yeah.
And you see on the map, there's like a little dirt road that goes to it. That dirt road has to be recorded on the deed. It has to be recorded. If it's not, you are landlocked and your land is basically only worth something to the neighbors around you.
Yeah.
You pretty much have like such a limited market. So access is like the hugest thing. And it's a big thing in the country. People just assume, well, I've been using that road for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And my neighbor hasn't said anything about it. But that doesn't assume the next person who buys it, that neighbor's going to show them any favors.
Yeah.
And a lender certainly won't look at that favorably either.
Yeah.
And to get a building permit, you're not going to be able to get one if you don't have, legal access. So I'd say that's like the biggest thing, like assuming access. I've made even mistakes on that on deals I've underwritten at first.
Yeah.
Where it looked like we had access and then we found out like we didn't.
Yeah.
Or here's another thing too. You think you have access, but you don't know how much it would cost to have like a road to get access to that. Like people underestimate that a lot. Like if it's like 1,000 feet, like from the state road to get to where you would put that home site, 1,000 feet of gravel is expensive.
Yeah.
So you just can't assume like, you can just, we could just put gravel on it and make it happen. Like you can't assume that for your buyer. Like if you have to go and spend money to improve the land, basically to get get it prepared versus buying a property that, it's just a couple of, maybe like 100 feet, gravel road and boom,
Mhm.
you have your home site. That can drastically change
Yeah.
how much your buyer might be paying for the property. So I'd
Yeah.
say that's like a big thing, like missing access, missing the cost of like getting your home site ready, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'd say another big one is like wetlands.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
people just understanding you can't build on wetlands.
Yeah.
And it's also challenging too if, let's say, you have wetlands that is pretty much in the way of your driveway to get to your home site,
Yes. Yeah.
because you're triggering like federal like ecological regulations. Like if you
Yes.
have to build a road over that wetlands.
Yeah.
And so that's a time consuming headache that you're basically baking into your home build plans. Like
Yes.
that's another thing too.
Yeah.
You can't just assume, we're just going to throw a road over it, it's going to be fine. Like you're disrupting that. And you're going to have to you're going to have to file an application basically
Yeah.
to maybe move the wetland like somewhere else or something like that. So like you're going to have to get another approval. That's another paperwork hoop you're going to have to jump through.
Yeah.
So I would say those are probably like the big things I think I see.
Yeah. Once those mistakes happen, it sounds like they're not super easy to correct, first of all. So I guess setting expectations with clients is important in that aspect, and
Right.
the honesty of
Yes.
like, I didn't know that.
Because most clients just assume I'm going to buy land and just, be remote, or I'm going to have my this, my that. They just assume that buying, and it's a trending thing now.
Yes,
It's a trending thing, I
is.
think, on the internet, to get away from the city,
Yep.
have your own land, be self-sustainable. So
Yep.
you have this vision on social media, like be self-sustainable. You don't need the government. You don't need the system. And I'm all for that. I have like goats, like I got like a mini homestead. I've got goats. I've got chickens. So I'm all for being self-sustainable, but self-sustainability, like you have to educate yourself on that
Yeah.
kind of process, and what that is going to look like. What's the feasibility to make that happen? I think there's a big picture that's being kind of sold on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube right now. And, land is more than that. Like
Yeah.
there's basically you're building from the ground up.
Yes.
It's not like it's just boom, just done for you. There is a lot of process and paperwork that gets done to make like all of that happen.
Yeah.
So it's vastly, I would say it's even more, I think you have to be more sophisticated in the land buying process. Like if your client's doing that and setting expectations than like
Yes.
the home buying
Yeah.
process. Because if you're a land buyer, you're basically working your land, getting it ready, doing that all from scratch. You're basically doing similar to like what a builder or like a developer's doing, albeit, on a smaller scale. You're not doing like a whole subdivision or something like that. But there's a lot more. It's not just turnkey done for you. Like here's the keys and you have your house. With land, it's kind of like once you buy it, like, okay, we got these trees. Now what?
Now what? Now where do we go? Yeah.
Right.
Have you seen deals fall apart because the agent on the other end has treated it like it's a residential transaction, like a residential listing transaction? If no, that's okay. That's probably a
I
good thing.
mean, I'm thinking about like what deals I've seen fall apart for land.
Yeah.
I think the deals that fall apart are the deals where they're lemons.
Yeah.
And you go under contract on it, you do the due diligence, and they didn't provide kind of like, they knew it. They knew what was wrong with the property, and they were just hoping they could get away with it and you would just buy it for their asking price.
Yes.
That is extremely, extremely common actually with land, where there are problems with it. Maybe it doesn't perk.
Yeah.
But they're not going to say it doesn't perk on the listing. They're just going to say buyer to do like all the due diligence.
Yep.
And the seller knows that too. Like the seller knows it won't perk, but they're like, hey, let's list it for this price anyway. So I think that's really common with land, where people are buying a lemon and then they find out it's a lemon in the process and they pull out of it. What I say about land is this: if you want to really sell your land listing, don't leave any uncertainty.
Yeah.
Don't leave any uncertainty if you're listing a piece of land. Get a perk test done. Dude, it kind of irks me when a broker or an agent says, oh, the buyer's going to pay for the perk test. If a buyer is in the market looking for a piece of land, you can't expect that person to want to pay $500 to $800 for every piece of land they go see.
Yes. Yeah.
What you need to do to market your land to every buyer out there is get a perk test done beforehand. That's like similar to like an agent. I think it's actually better to do it for land, but it's like doing a pre-inspection on a
Yes.
property before you list it.
Yeah.
So when you get that perk test done and you have the results, that buyer knows basically like, oh, this is buildable.
Yeah.
This is the type of a 3 or 4 bedroom house that we can put on it. That question's already, that's like the major one.
Yeah.
So I would say answering questions beforehand, even the things that are icky about the land, like, wetlands are in the back or survey is like not on file. Just having those things up front, the buyer is more likely actually going to move forward with what they know and they'll
Yes.
accept it versus the uncertainty. If there's too much uncertainty in the buyer's eyes, they're probably gonna be like, you know what? I don't want to do it because of the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
Sunlight is the best disinfectant when it comes to your land listing. So make sure you have your plat ready, your perk test results ready, anything that's appealing about the property that like wild deer come here,
Yeah.
turkey, great for duck hunting, or this land, if it's a big tract and it's not subdividable,
Yeah.
then don't mark it as like, hey, this is a great investor opportunity to build a development. Like, you're going to want to market that as like a big farm opportunity. Like
Yes.
somebody can have their farm on it. So
Yeah.
like, or if you can subdivide it, talk about that in your listing description. Like, hey, this is a great investor opportunity. You could be able to subdivide it. Like having all that already done, that's going to maximize the dollar amount value you can get for your seller if you do those things up front.
No, that makes sense. Overall, what is the biggest lesson you have learned in your land selling, buying, investing journey?
Oof. The biggest thing I've learned. Wow. My land investment company is called Goshen Land Company. And like the vision is like, we got Goshen land from like the book of Genesis. It's this place that, God took his people when they were in Egypt. And it's like this place of like refuge and comfort. And we use that name because we wanted to buy land and make it like a better place for like the next person. Like, so somebody can have their own like Goshen, you know what I'm saying? I would say what I've learned the most about land is that there's a lot of people out there that you can help. Like, I would say, like, if somebody comes to you and asks you, like, to list your land, or let's say your brokerage gets a lead, you get a lead that comes in. It's like, oh, it's a land listing and it's like 50 grand. Like, help that person. Like, think about it, that county that you're serving, that community that you're serving, like, you are making that a better community when you serve that person and like you list their property and you help them sell it. Otherwise, it's just sitting there. It's just dead space that isn't doing anything. So you're uplifting communities every time you sell that piece of land and get in the hands of somebody who wants to do something productive with it. And this is happening all over America, right now. I think in the next 20 years, like 70% of farmland is going to be sold off because people who own that farmland are in their 60s and they're going into their 70s. So a lot of land is going to be exchanging hands over the next 2 or 3 decades. And that's going to be a big opportunity, I think, for agents, I think for investors. I think it's going to be significant. So it's something you're going to want to take advantage of. You don't know if that person you're helping to buy might end up being, that builder that you're going to work with over and over. You can get that listing on the back end, or that person, because you get a land bug, you start buying land, you start wanting to buy other tracts as well. And, you can be that person that educates your buyer and they become a prolific land buyer and they do different projects and stuff like that. So that's how you got to see it. Land's something, when you get into it, there's like an evolution that happens to you. And you can go like different ways. You can go like the development route. You can just go like the investor route. You can go like working with the builder route. So there's a lot of different like niches you can do within it. And that's what I learned. Like, you can go as far as you want to go. And you can go anywhere you do want to go. Like, if you do land.
A lot of potential there, and business building, which is awesome. Well, thank you for your time today. Can you tell everybody watching where they can find you on social media or where they can find out more about Goshen Land?
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much you can find us at goshenlandco.com. Obviously, like, our brokerage has like my contact information at Keaton & Co. Real Estate, so you can find me there. I'm not really like a Facebook person.
That's okay.
You can find me on Instagram at Real Israel Irizarry, or you can find me on YouTube as well, like under my name as well. Israel Irizarry as well. If you want to reach out, ask any questions, ask for any advice, I'm basically here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.